Welcome to another episode outside the Gridiron presented by Mike Farrell Sports. I'm Ryan Evan Schroet, Big Ten correspondent. Episode 5 is here, and that means we're another week closer to the start of college football season. My favorite time of year. And as the weeks progress, a lot more is going on. So we've had a coaches poll. We've had a new AP poll. And eventually it's just you start getting things that you're just running out of things to talk about before the season starts. But thankfully the polls have jumped up, and obviously, there's big time matchups early in the season between the group of 5 and the Power 4 conferences. And I think it's time to break down some of those, the biggest ones, maybe the ones where we see upsets, I think. And I think, Deion Sanders, I think the shtick was great last year. I think it definitely drew attention to Boulder and Colorado, but it sounds like things are getting a little bit out of control. Are the wheels falling off? It looks like it could be that way. We're going to discuss that, the AP poll, and the top group of 5 Power 4 matchups tonight. So that's what you got on tap. So tonight joining me, Mike Lilly, recruiting analyst, who was on last week. What's up, Mike?
Hey, Ryan, how we doing?
Good. Also, Ty Shiner, right?
You got it. Hey, Ryan. Hey, Mike. How you guys doing?
I can spell, baby. All right, associate editor who joined us a couple weeks ago from Croatia. So welcome back to the show. And, the last guy almost doesn't need an introduction, but, I mean, he might as well start paying rent. He's been on this so long. Last but not least, Kyle Golick, lead columnist, Mike Farrell Sports. What's happening, Kyle?
After being a guest podcaster on the Miguel Farrell Sports down in Mexico, I returned back for the American version.
Okay. All right. Well, how was that down there?
We got lost in translation a little bit, but
okay.
it went pretty well. We all agreed we liked tacos and we liked tequila.
Well, you know what? I'm glad they let you come back, because Mike Farrell Sports and Outside the Gridiron would not be the same.
Absolutely.
Obviously, I broke down in the intro what we're going to talk about tonight. Kyle, how about this? Of the 3 topics, you tell me, what do we want to talk about first? What do you want to talk about?
I think we need to lead off with Deion.
Okay. That's fine. I like that, because we can get that kind of hot take-ish, but maybe necessary out of the way, and we can get to the real fun stuff, the things that really matter. Because really Deion's, that thing doesn't matter too much to me, but it's like almost impossible not to discuss a little bit. So what's your take on that, Kyle? Like, where are you at in this situation? Because personally, while I think Deion knows the game, you obviously know he does. I think maybe this whole CEO, doesn't matter how I treat the player, doesn't matter. I don't have to talk to any of the media. I can just say what I want. That's only going to last so long. So what's your take on the situation there going on in Boulder right now?
So there's no arguing that Coach Prime's knowledge, whereas Scott Solomon says Coach Subprime, as a player. He knows the game as a player. He doesn't know the game as a coach, and it's starting to unravel for him. When you begin to look at how he carried himself with the media, and at how he was, we'll just quite frankly say, butthurt over the allegations that Athlon Sports' Stephen Porter had on him, he just lost it to the CBS affiliates, which to me shows immaturity. If you got nothing to hide, why are you freaking out? And then Sam Keeler, who writes for the Denver Post, he's going to be a critic in this game. Our jobs is to question everything, and Deion Sanders is not used to being questioned when it comes from a negative connotation. So he's starting to spar with the media out there. This is going to be very short-lived, because based off of how he's built that program, he isn't doing a traditional recruiting, which Mike Lilly can dive into there. And you can't live in the portal like it is. Once his son graduates and Travis Hunter graduates, there's no elite athletes. they're only, to me, better than a 1-11 program because they have a few 4 or 5-star athletes that are difference makers. So this is going to end badly for Colorado and Deion.
Ty, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, not making any excuses how he treats people, but I think, this is who he is, right? I mean, nothing really surprises me with Deion. I mean, we're talking about him, which I think he enjoys, right? I think doesn't he actually have his own production company still following him around, I think, in Boulder?
I almost feel bad that I didn't buy like those $15 shades. I should have put those on while we're talking about him right now.
Right.
Maybe 20. My apologies, Deion, maybe 20. But I could have went to the local Target, or I'd say TJ Maxx. Probably got me a nice big shades. We could have finished this conversation. But anyway, sorry to interrupt, Ty.
Yeah, no. I mean, and I think he knows what he's doing, and I think he knows what he says. I mean, he is smart. I just think the more we're talking about him in this type of light, I think he just has to do stuff on the field, right? I think they really need to be minimum a bowl team this year. And if not, I think it's just only going to get worse for him in the public light.
Yeah, and it sounds like obviously in year one they were obviously super competitive in some matchups, like with USC, and then they blew games like Stanford. There was it could have been a bowl team last year, I thought, and against Arizona it was a real close game as well. But this year to me it's like if you can't get them to a bowl game, that's got to go into year 3. Like, it's great you've got all this money and attention coming, but at the end of the day, it's about winning. And so, Mike, your perspective on the Deion situation.
I'm far from a Deion apologist. You can look at it in any article that I do write about recruiting. I get a million different comments all the time about how I'm picking on him, everything to that regard when I post a new recruiting article that involves Prime. More often than not, it's because he's not taking the traditional high school route, like Kyle said. I'll say this, and I'll look at the other side of the coin. I understand it, and I think we look at it differently because it is Colorado and Prime. You look at guys like Lane Kiffin, Mike Leach, Nick Saban. They've said different things to the media, like taking more of a Bill Belichick-style attitude, in my opinion. But Deion could have made it as simple as, hey, we're on a North Dakota State. That's what we're looking at right now. Just as simple as that. But I felt like he just made it personal, and that just wasn't fair for anybody. So that's my take. I think we're maybe driving the point home a little harder because it is Deion in Colorado. But at the same token, wins could fix a lot of that, like Ty said.
Yep, I think definitely year 2 he's got to get some wins, and it'd be nice.
Where are they coming from, though?
Yeah, I don't know. You might be able to, maybe they'll sprinkle down from the heavens. You need a little luck once in a while too, Kyle. And we'll see. I think there's enough talent on the team to win 6 games. Okay.
I got them starting 0-3 to start the season. That's losing to North Dakota State. That's losing to Nebraska, and that's losing to Colorado State.
Wow. Huh. I think they're going to lose to Nebraska. I feel pretty confident about that. While North Dakota State's still a good program. I know they're one of the top, in FCS. Even they lost to South Dakota State last year, but I think there's still tons of talent. Like, I'm not going to sit here and act like, Deion Sanders is not a really, really good quarterback, and they've got dynamic receivers. Their offensive line was a big problem last year, but I think they've addressed that to a degree, and I think that they can probably beat North Dakota State. I think they're going to go start 2-1. But you know what, Kyle? I guess that's what makes this fun, because in about 5 weeks we'll know how that goes.
Someone give me a solid and clip Kyle Golick saying that Colorado is going to start 0-3.
Yes. So
I'm standing with it.
You wanted to start clipping some of the episodes? Well, I want that one. So
I was just if they start 0-3, the wheels might fall off there, because all the other rumors that's going on within the locker room. If they're 0-3, then I don't know if they're coming back to make.
We have a weekly fan, Justin Began, says Mike Farrell Sports will never be able to interview Devin, but Deion after this episode. Yeah,
call him Devin.
Yeah, we'll call him.
Be our code name for him.
Yeah, we'll call him Devin. Yeah, Devin. I like it. And then he's gonna say, Kyle's gonna be at a bowl game, being like, Deion. Yeah, it's Kyle Golick, Mike Farrell Sports. You know what you did.
You know
what you did. I'm not talking to you.
If I don't like to hang in a toilet bowl, so I'm probably never going to be at a Colorado bowl game. Just putting that out there.
Wow, man. Wow. All right.
And again, if I need to use TP for the good old Colorado bowl game, I'll use Deion's book that he wrote, Elevate and Dominate. So
I can tell you've just never been a Deion Sanders fan. That's all right. I mean,
it's okay. I'm looking at their schedule right now here. I'm seeing 3 or 4 wins tops. That last month of the season at Texas Tech, Utah, at Kansas, and then Oklahoma State, those are 4 L's right there. And I'm telling you right now, Colorado APR isn't worth a lick. So they ain't getting to a bowl game with 5 and 7.
True. That's why I think 6 wins. I think they can get to that. But let's move on now. I think we've said our piece, and I know Mike Farrell will finish it off for us at some point soon.
Or Scott.
Yeah, Scott too. So Mike, we've got Group of 5 Power 4 matchups, or we've got a new AP Top 25 poll coming out. What do you want to talk about next?
I think we should close out with the Power 4 Group of 5. So
Okay.
let's hit the AP poll because the differentiators aren't. It's not too far off from the coaches poll.
Okay. All right. So obviously a key one from my perspective, Big Ten correspondent. Well, I cover Illinois too. I noticed Kansas moved up a couple spots in the AP poll. Illinois has a big matchup week 2. Bielema's trying to get to that group. I think they have a chance to get to 3-0, a good shot. They have Central Michigan and Eastern Illinois. But a big for them to get to 3-0, they're going to host Kansas, a 6 p.m. primetime slate, week 2 on FS1. You got number 22 Kansas coming in. I think 6 Big Ten teams were ranked, and 4 inside the top 10. So pretty similar in that aspect. Who did we have slip into the top 25 that was left out of the coaches poll, Ty? Did you notice that?
I'm not sure exactly.
Iowa was 25th in the coaches poll.
Right.
And I saw Kansas was 24th. They moved to 22nd. There's got to be a couple that's within, usually between 20 and 25. That's where the biggest adjustments are. Mike, you notice anything there?
I didn't, and I feel like you're a teacher asking a student that didn't do their homework, but I haven't noticed any.
All right, Kyle, you are the teacher's pet. Go ahead, break it down.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
I don't get hardcore into the polls because here's the thing.
All right, I'll do
None
it.
of them, but I will say this: Iowa is being gifted a top 25 spot. I think they're going to lose to Troy, and we'll talk about that in the next segment.
Oh my. Okay, clip that, please. All right. So AP poll here. Let me see.
I actually thought it was more interesting. I was just actually looking at the teams who didn't make it, right? I mean, you had no G5 teams again, which no surprise there.
Right.
But I was kind of looking at it at a way, and I'm actually thinking about doing an article on this on like teams that didn't make the preseason poll, but that we'll see at the end of the year in the final top 25 poll. So I mean, just I don't know. Well, if I'll be,
it looks like Liberty is the closest one, right?
Yep.
Liberty got 32 votes. Yeah. Liberty got 32 votes, and SMU is now in the Big 12, right? Or are they in the
ACC?
They're in the AAC. Okay, so
no, they're in the
ACC. They're in the ACC, so they have 33 votes. So they're a Power 4 team, so they don't count. But
someone voted for Colorado in the AP poll.
Yeah,
I wonder if that was
Deion.
Who
the hell that was? But yeah, so Arizona was 21 in the coaches, and they're 21 in the AP. I'm thinking USC moved up a little or moved down. They're at 23, and North Carolina State it snuck in there at 24, which he's got a good program, so it's not really that bad. There's a lot of belief in Mario Cristobal's Miami teams, apparently, with the coaches in the AP poll. So I guess
frauds.
I guess basically it doesn't matter who is coaching the ship, as long as there's talent that you're going to win. I guess that's how it works. Kyle, I'm waiting for you. Go ahead. What do you got to say about that?
Oh, Miami is the biggest fraud of this whole thing. Like Joel Klatt's like they should be an 11-1 team, and I'm looking at Cam Ward. He's a good quarterback. I'm a big Damian Martinez guy. Was a big fan of him at Oregon State last year, but I still don't see this team being 11-1 good. I think this is tops a 9-win team, including a bowl win this year. I mean, they'll finish in the top 25, but this stigma of them like flirting with the playoffs, yeah, I got some swampland outside of Coral Gables I'll sell to the Kane fans on that one.
So since we're on the topic here of top 25, what do you guys make of Paul Feinbaum saying that FSU is going to probably finish this season unranked? What do you think of that?
I think he's high.
I mean, I think he just said that either yesterday or this morning. I saw that. So,
to me, I think there's two teams I think they've really undervalued in this poll. And I think it's Arizona and I think it's USC. Arizona, I like Fafita. I like McMillan. They have a few great linemen. I know they got the new coach in there from San Jose State. I think his name's Brandon Browner. Hopefully someone got it. What? Brett Brandon?
Brett Brennan.
Yeah, something like that. I couldn't remember offhand. This is a team that won 10 games, and it got its core still there. Extremely talented, and going to the Big 12, which was, in my opinion, it's going to be an easier road for them versus what the Pac-12 was last year, where they won 10 games. I think Arizona can flirt top 15, maybe sneak into the playoff if the chips fall right. I think USC's being undervalued. I think the LSU Tigers, you don't lose three major components like Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas, a trio that helped LSU lead the nation in scoring at over 45 a game and be okay. I know it's a neutral site game in Vegas. It's still Brian Kelly. He's a big game choke job. I think that's a game USC can use to springboard them. And I think USC can make a run. I don't think 10-2 is out of the question for the Trojans this year. I think we'll touch on Clemson, but I think they're a little bit overrated. I think they got that 14 spot because of what Dabo has done in the past. Not sold on Missouri being on the fringe of the top 10. And I think Michigan being in the top 10 is out of respect, but I think that's a team that's going to finish bottom part of the top 25 this year.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit last week. I think Mike said that he thinks that, with the defense being as solid and he thinks pretty good, that it's fair because they're the national champion. I don't think obviously that's where they're going to finish. I'm not necessarily thinking
it's a respect thing.
Yeah, I think they're a top 25 team, but I think maybe more like a top 15 team to start. But it is what it is at this point.
Do you guys think Texas is going to be impacted a lot with Baxter's season-ending injury?
I don't.
Well, now is there another injury now too? Did I read?
Yeah, Christian Blue.
Yeah.
Tore his Achilles.
Man, oh my goodness.
The depth's going to be tough, right?
I think Mike's prediction of Michigan beating Texas could come true.
That's where I think Michigan will get its elite win. But after that, I think it's going to be tough sledding for the Wolverines. I think USC will beat them. I think Ohio State got them this year. I think there's a third loss somewhere for them. But yeah, I think they're solid, and that's nothing to sneeze at either.
I think there's a third loss for Michigan. Yeah, I think they're probably going to either finish 9-3 or 8-4. That's what I think.
Getting USC at home helps. I mean, I don't remember what month it's in. I think it's late October, if I'm not mistaken. Getting them at home definitely helps.
I thought it was early October. Maybe I need to look at their schedule right again. I thought it was like within their first 5 or 6 games.
I think it's a little early too here. I'll look it up here
because I looked at their Michigan schedule and it's tough, man. Michigan's first 5 or 6 games.
It's October 12th. It's that crazy weekend.
No, it isn't, because October 12th is the Penn State game.
It's October 5th.
It's October 5th. I think it's the 5th game.
It's September 21st.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Unless Phil steals full of it.
Okay, I
No,
knew it was. I
I
knew it was
believe him.
within the first 4 or 5 games. I'm like, man, Michigan
believe
starts out with a tough schedule.
I mean, yeah, they got a brutal schedule, and they got Oregon this year too.
Ding, ding, Justin. Ding, ding. Illinois is unveiling their Red Grange. Awesome
I
jersey
mean,
with the leather helmets. Oh, come on, dude.
are you guys are you guys gonna have Friday night at the Illinois home stadium? You guys gonna watch the John Krasinski, George Clooney movie Leatherheads to kind of get fired up for it?
Yeah, I'm thinking. I know all the local campus bars probably will have that on. But yeah, so that's one we'll eventually, as we get to there, we'll talk about some upsets of the week. We're going to do that during the season, which will be fun. I'm already going to tell you I'm going to have that one. So Illinois owes Michigan. So even though you guys think, oh, he's being a homer, we'll see how the season plays out.
Illinois had that program, and Mike can attest to this being a Buckeye. You hate seeing them on their schedule because you never know which Illini team's going to show up because they can always pull that upset and ruin your season.
Yeah, it is true. We take pride in that as Illini fans and stuff, but
I will tell you
it doesn't help us. Our tears are still flowing at 5-7. Though we're like
best
we're
Penn
this
State
close to a
team
bowl. All right.
I ever saw. 94. Who was the team that took Penn State to the brink? It wasn't Ohio State. It wasn't USC, and it wasn't Michigan. It wasn't Oregon either in a Rose Bowl. It was Illinois.
It was Illinois who really should have won that game.
They really should have. No jokes or lies.
Kerry Collins and Kajana Carter led.
You had what, Simeon Rice on that team?
Yes. So we'll get off Illinois because this is a national show, but I'm going to just say this. Growing up, I'm telling you guys, listen to this. This was Illinois' defensive linebacking core, okay? All on one team. And this was the team that basically should have beaten the Penn State team that went undefeated and won the Rose Bowl or whatever it was. Played Oregon, yeah. So Simeon Rice, Kevin Hardy, Dana Howard, college football Hall of Famer, and John Holochek, okay? All guys.
That's stacked.
Yeah, all on one defense. By the way, they were the second and third pick in the NFL draft the following season. And one is a college football Hall of Famer, Dana Howard. And the other, John Holochek, I'm pretty sure played in the NFL. It's just a great college linebacker. But my point is, it was just that's who I got used to watching. And then them seeing them about beat Penn State and then watching them lose, it's just that's a heartbreak, Kyle. I don't think I'll ever get over. So
I feel you. I got a few of those against Lily's Buckeyes that I'm still reeling from.
So anyway, yeah. So other than that, with the top 25 poll, I think it's very close. Not too many major differences, which is surprising though, because when you look at those polls, usually the coaches in the media, are so they just think differently. Like coaches feel like they know more. And the media is like, well, we have a better perspective because we're on the outside. So you never really know what you're going to get with that.
Just to give you one more feather in your cap, and I know we want to get off the Illinois Penn State kick. Penn State historian Lou Prado. So if you ever, and I have the Penn State football encyclopedia to back it up. He says the greatest game Penn State ever played, and this is a guy who's covered it all and seen it all, was that 94 Illinois game. He considers that the greatest Penn State game ever.
Meaning like they had to play that great to win the game because Illinois
No. It's the greatest overall game. Greater than the Fiesta Bowl against Miami, greater than the Georgia Sugar Bowl, greater than the Alabama Sugar Bowl, greater than the Nebraska game. Yeah, so just remember that. Like Penn State's historian guru feels the greatest game Penn State ever played and he ever watched was that Illinois game.
Yeah. I mean, for
respect,
the ending had it been a little better, I would agree. But yeah. So, do you guys each have? I will actually. I don't really have a specific game. I've got maybe one or two, but I know you guys. We broke some of this down a little bit before we went on the air here. Our top group of 5 Power 4 matchups. Mike, we'll start with you. What is one for people at home or whoever they're watching to, hey, maybe I need to check that out? Is there upset alert, or you just think maybe it's going to be a fun back and forth game? Who do you have?
I'll give you my honorable mention of Miami of Ohio at Notre Dame. It's an honorable mention there. I think that's going to be a fun game to watch. Do I think they'll beat Notre Dame? Probably not, but I've been shocked before. So the one that I'm actually really honed in on and taking a look at is Kansas State at Tulane. So Tulane's one of those fringe teams that are a pretty sexy pick for the group of 5 to make the playoff this year. They have Kansas State at home, and then they turn around and go to Oklahoma the following week. I think if they split one of those 2 games, they have a shot at the playoff. And Kansas State being at home, it's definitely one that sticks out.
Okay, I like it. I can dig it. And you think Miami, Ohio is going to hang in there in South Bend, huh?
Oh yeah, yep. Really like Miami of Ohio this year. Get Brett Gabbert in another season. Coming off an 11-3 MAC championship, I believe they won their bowl game too against a P4. Was it against a P4 or was another G5 team? If anyone remembers. Nonetheless, 11-3 last season, coming into another strong year, filled some holes in the portal that they also lost to the portal. So really curious to see what happens.
I like them. Ty, what do you have?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote about a bunch in the article that came out earlier this week, but one of them that I'm looking forward to is the App State at Clemson game. It's going to be in Death Valley. And to Mike's point again, I mean, App State, another team that, if they hit double-digit wins, win the Sun Belt, they could be, a viable spot for the G5 playoff. And then also, I think the schedule lines up that week. Also, that the Clemson, they're going to be. I think it's right before they play Georgia, so it could be a look-ahead spot. So, I think, not saying it's going to be an upset, but I think it should be a good game, and I think it'll be also telltale to see how Clemson's going to be doing this year. Not using not using the portal. So I think that it should be an interesting game between P4, G5, App State, and Clemson.
Ty, that's actually week 2 after Georgia, which is even scarier.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, yeah, that's even scarier. That could be an 0-2 start for Clemson.
Right. So I was thinking, so then, if they get beat, I mean, depending on how that game goes, that could go one or two ways for Clemson coming off after that game.
Before we get to Kyle, we've actually mentioned a couple already: Colorado State and Colorado, and then North Dakota State at Colorado is 2 week group in here. Kyle, what do you got?
So I got 2 right off the bat. I'm going to continue dovetailing off a tie here about Appalachian State Clemson. So since 2018, Appalachian State is 3-4 against Power 4 teams. Okay. In those 4 losses, they have been by a touchdown or less. I was at the Penn State Appalachian State game, the one that Miles Sanders got that late score to beat them. I think that game went to overtime, if I'm not mistaken. It was, I think, 45-38 or something like that. North Carolina, remember the crazy fourth quarter where Appalachian State, I think, scored, 42 points in that quarter to tie it up there against that abysmal North Carolina team? This isn't the same Clemson team that we saw in the late 2010s and the early part of this decade that was looking like a dynasty. They are definitely on upset alert. And then, like I alluded to in the previous segment, I'm going to take Troy over Iowa. And here's the thing. I think they got enough talent coming back that on a defense that was in the top 10 nationally in scoring. They allowed just over 17 points a game. While Kurt Ferenc at Big Ten Media Days was somewhat trumpeting Tim Lester as the new offensive coordinator, so there's no Brian Ferenc and in that much. I'm still not sold on guys like Eric Alt, Cade McNamara, etc., especially with this game being week 3 in the season following the Cy Hawk game. It has a chance for a letdown. When people ask me, well, this is Iowa. They've had a great defense and whatnot. 2016, they lost to North Dakota State 23-21. And then I think it was in 2022, they played FCS South Dakota State and barely won 7-3. So this is a team that's still going to be figuring out its offense. It's not going to be humming. Iowa's typically a slow starter. This definitely has the Hawkeyes on upset alert, and I'm taking Troy in that week 3 matchup.
And mine that I'm going to stick with, and when it comes up, we're gonna do our weekly upset alerts or whatever, just some fun, different topics. I actually talked about these guys as my team to watch that could surprise and have a breakout year. And Kyle, I know you're going to agree with it because you've already called him a fraud on the show. I have South Florida beating Miami early in the season.
Oh, that's going to happen. South Florida got 18 starters coming back. Yeah, that's going to happen. And they got Alabama week 2. So I think Alabama's going to beat the brakes off of them. But that's going to prep them for Miami because Miami's nowhere near Alabama and physicality on the lines and what they're going to see. That's going to help them. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. So, there's a couple reasons. Is they do play Alabama on the road in Tuscaloosa, and I think what Alex Golish has going there in Tampa is a good thing. And he's got that area buying into them. I think that they're Miami's overrated at 19, and whoever's saying they can go 11-1 is definitely overlooking South Florida in that matchup. So I think that's going to be an upset there. I think they're going to come in with a chip on their shoulder, not Miami. Miami's not going to go into that game thinking, oh yeah, we're here against our rivals. No, they're not. They're thinking we're just going to win. We're Miami. We're expected to win. We're ranked. South Florida is going to be ready for that. So I think that's going to be a fun one to watch for sure. Just because I think it's also fun to see what blunders could arise or could happen. And especially what if it's like a monsoon or something down there, right? Like against that, remember Alabama game last year in Tampa, how that was?
Yep.
That threw all kinds of wrenches in Alabama's, and they didn't play like the same team. So, that's definitely one for me.
So the only other one I have, if Kirk Cignetti was still coaching James Madison, because I always buy the swagger in Kirk Cignetti, I would have them go beating North Carolina. I'm still not sold on North Carolina I think Mac Brown is always going to keep them respectable, but I think the talent's there with James. They did beat Virginia last year. I mean, again, Tony Elliott's a disaster in Charlottesville, but I think James Madison, North Carolina is another game to kind of keep an eye on. I think James Madison continues to prove they are ahead of the curve on really getting to this level of college football. And I think this is going to be a program that's going to continue to grow, kind of like Central Florida did and get into a Power 4 status eventually.
Now, I'm trying to think. Well, we've went over that. I think maybe, I know next week we're going to be talking about week 0. I think we could probably feature some of those week 0 matchups, which, by the way, I think Florida State and Georgia Tech will be a good one.
I think so too.
I think, Georgia Tech gets better. They just have been better and better kind of every year, the last few years. And, they're just competent, and which is a good thing. They got talent. I think they've got good coaches, and I think Florida State's going to be riding high and looking for some redemption. And obviously, they're not the same team as they were last year, but I think people are sleeping on the Georgia Tech for sure. So that's going to be really an intriguing one for me. I know there's really not a lot of games to pick, but and we'll focus more on that next week. But so Kyle, what do you have? What have you been working on? What's your last article you worked on, and then what are you soon to be working on here?
So I've been pretty much on the Jim Harbaugh, Sharon Moore, Deion Sanders beat. So I explored a little bit on Stephen Porter, who appeared on the Dan Le Batard show, about his reporting. I kind of beat up on him a little bit because if you watch that was awkward as all hell. And I compared it to when Sarah Gainham was going after Jerry Sandusky in Penn State. And even with everyone in central Pennsylvania, like going after Gainem, she stuck by her reporting and she ended up being right. So I'm hoping Quarter can stick to his guns and continue to follow up on what he's received. Apparently, some his editors over there, Ty, you probably know a little bit about the editing front in that regard, or they get something. So I explored that. Coming up later on, I'm going to be exploring Sharon Moore a little bit more. Is he essentially the fall guy? Does he have a chance to really be successful? I'm going to explore also, this might be a little bit spicy, but the disparity in coverage of African American coaches. Look at how Deion Sanders is coveraged and perceived versus guys like Sharon Moore, James Franklin, Mike Loxley. Think about it. Maryland's won 3 bowl games in a row. So we got that coming up. And then taking a look at other Big Ten stuff and some national stuff. So that's what I got cooking on my side.
You always got. I will give you credit, man. I'll give you your flowers, Kyle. You work hard. You write a lot, and you do a good job. So, Mike, what's next for you, and what was your last piece that you wrote?
I've been a little bit out of the loop with different articles recently, but recruiting commitment recaps were essentially what I've been up to most recent. Going to get back on top of what's moving in the recruiting world. Mike dropped his own set of rankings for the top 10 last week. So deterred off that, but I'll have a top 25 coming right before the season starts.
Okay. Yeah. And it's not, there's no trick questions like, heck, I need to get my next article in. So, Ty, I enjoy your group of 5 power 4 matchups article. Well, what's next for you?
Yep. Yeah. So just finished that one. And next up, I think I alluded to it earlier in the show, but I'm going to work on a piece on teams that weren't ranked in any of the preseason top 25 polls, but that I think will be ranked in the top 25 end of season poll.
I like it. Food for thought. Well, before we end this episode, Kyle, anything else that we have not discussed that maybe you want to bring up before we put some pepperonis and anchovies on this pizza,
anchovies are really good. They are. I love. Hey, you can't make a good Caesar dressing without the anchovies.
Wow, that's something. You learn something new every day. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, if you ever seen a tableside make Caesar dressing, you got to have the Dijon mustard, the anchovies, and whatnot. Only other thing I would say is I'm looking forward to taking a nice deep dive. I hit Amazon up and just scooped a whole bunch of Tom Petty stuff. So
okay,
I'll be chilling as I write. So
that's
kind of where I'm at. There's 16 CDs worth of Tom Petty content. So got my stereo over there as I write. So I'll be in my zone and I'll be in happy mode.
Since we're in the music, we're going to send this off. Music is, I love music, and it's, besides sports and my children, I really get into that. But I just discovered, I don't know, maybe you, Kyle, Ty, Mike, discovered like a band that I had heard some of their songs, but I really didn't know much about them because like I was born in 87, which when they were really popping, and then they went into the early to mid 90s. And then their lead singer actually died in excess. Okay. Like you heard, Ty, you heard of them?
I've heard of them. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh my goodness. If anybody wants to listen to some stuff, maybe one of the best voices of a lead singer of any a rock band, I'm telling you. And he passed away in 97. Michael Hutchins. Yeah, he passed away. Sadly, they said it was an accidental suicide. So
I'm a sucker for 80s pop music. So
man, I'm just telling you. Yeah, so you're listening to Tom Petty. I'll be listening to NXS with my next.
And I also scooped up on Amazon. So everyone knows how crazy vinyl prices is. They had the Dead Kennedys fresh fruit for rotten vegetables on Amazon for $13.98. I scooped that up. So I'll get my punk addiction. I'll get some Petty addiction. I'm going to be in a very good, happy place.
Hey, get to your local Chick-fil-A, baby, and it's a call it a night. All right.
I can't eat Chick-fil-A after the Peach Bowl. I had enough Chick-fil-A sandwiches to last me a year.
All right. Well, that'll do it for episode 5 of Outside the Gridiron, presented by Mike Farrell Sports. Every week, I'm just going to tell you guys, maybe one week we'll get Mike on this thing, So we'll see. I ask him every week. I think some weeks he's watching True Detective. I don't know what he's doing. Some weeks he's doing other things. Some weeks he's writing articles. But one week I will get him on here. So, and next week will be fun because we can preview and we can make our picks for week 0. So we're going to do some fun stuff next week. We hope you guys tune in here. And if you haven't retweeted it on X, and then it will be uploaded to YouTube. I got to get on that, get these going and uploaded, and Ty will be working on some clips. So that'll do it for this week's episode of Outside the Gridiron. We'll see you next week.